Hello everyone. So let's begin. International law. Every country is referred to as a state. Okay. So when the term state is coming, you don't have to refer to UP, MP as they are states of India, but India is a state in terms of international law. Bentham's classic definition: international law is a collection of rules governing relations between states. This definition omits two vital elements of modern international law, that is, individuals and international organizations, because the time when Bentham was, there were no international organizations as such. But now what we say is that international law governs states directly and it governs individuals in fine. So the two vital elements are missing. See, Bentham is a very popular jurist and political scientist, so you should remember the definition which is given by him. You should. What is it? The collection of rules governing relations between states. As such, it is not much difficult also, it is very basic, right? And I think in the first video when I began this chapter, I had also said some of the same words. I had also defined international law in the same manner somewhat. International law is called law of nations because it governs the relations between nations, so it is called the law of nations. International law is a framework of rules and principles binding relations between states, governing their conduct and other international entities that are legally recognized, and between citizens of other nations. It is a system of treaties and agreements between nations that governs how they interact with others, citizens of other nations and businesses of other nations. So ये पूरा आप कह सकते हो एक्सपेंसिव और authentic definition है what all is the scope of international law, the rules and regulations or principles that govern the relation between states, the conduct amongst themselves, that how they have to deal with each other, and the the international entities that are recognized as per the law. That means it is a legal body, you can say, and citizens of other nations. So between government of both states, between citizens of states, the conduct amongst each other, and the organizations or entities which are set up. Also the treaties and agreements that have been entered into by the nations that will again regulate how they have to deal with each other and with each other's citizen and business. As we say that the two countries have entered into to do trade with each other. So that is the business of other nations, or a country setting up a particular brand's headquarter or the manufacturing unit in some city of another nation. So that is also the way of dealing with business of other nation, MNCs, right? So this whole para is about the scope of international law. Fine. Form of law which relies on consent based governance. Why consent based? Because we say that the countries have to enter into the agreement or consensus that this particular law should be accepted on an international level, and if it is so accepted, now they have to be bind by it, or they have to not binding as such, but they have to implement it in their own nations, right? Because it may be a rising concern which is important to be addressed because of the urgency or high time, like the environmental issue. As states are not ordinarily obliged to abide by it, states are not bound by it. If you are bound, nobody is seeking your consent. A law which is passed by the government of India to be regulated throughout the country, do the government or the ministers ask permission of the citizens before implementing it? No. because we are by law bound to accept it and we are not to violate it. If we violate it, then it will follow consequences of punishment, imprisonment, fine or whatsoever, right? So if you are bound by something, that means you compulsorily have to follow it. In that your consent is not asked. Nobody is asking you, you will follow or you like it or you don't like it. No. So consent based का मतलब है that you are not ordinarily bound by it. तभी आपसे पूछा जा रहा है. And if all the countries or the required number of majority is attained, then only that proposal becomes a rule for international level also, क्योंकि वो चीज़ सारी countries में हमें पास करनी है. So and every country के जो political, social, religious situation है, the predicament of the people also who are living in that country, that is also different from each other. तो उन सब चीज़ों को देखते हुए कंट्री उस बात से मानेगी या नहीं, उसके नेशन के सिचुएशन सर्कमस्टांसेस के हिसाब से वो रूल इम्प्लीमेंट करना फेवरेबल है या नहीं. दैट्स वाई द कंसेंट इज़ इम्पॉर्टेंट. Unless they expressly consent to a particular course of conduct. So by conduct they are implying that yes, I agree to it. So unless that is done, हम उनकी consent लेते हैं. Although certain aspects are exceptions to the consent requirement, such as principle of customary international law or jus cogens, which is a Latin phrase meaning compelling law. So consent का एक्सेप्शन क्या होगा? जिससे आप बाउंड हो, राइट? इट डेजिग्नेट्स नॉर्म्स फ्रॉम विच नो डेरोगेशन इज परमिटेड बाय वे ऑफ पर्टिकुलर अग्रीमेंट्स. दैट मीन्स यू कैन नॉट डेरोगेट और यू कैन नॉट डेविएट, you cannot violate it even by doing an agreement with each other. There are norms of customary international law which are so important that cannot be changed through treaties. ज़रूरी है तभी तो बोल रहे हैं ना that you cannot derogate. ज़रूरी नहीं होता तो आपकी consent उस पर मानी ही जाती. International law is categorized into public and private. Okay, and these both are very different fields. प्राइवेट इंटरनेशनल लॉ का मतलब ये नहीं है कि उस नेशन के अंदर के मतलब लोकल लॉज या म्यूनसिपल लॉज की बात हो रही है. The study of public international law is distinguished from the field of conflict of laws, which is the other name of private international law, which is concerned with rules of municipal law of states of different countries where foreign elements are involved. As I gave you that example, that two Indians residing in USA, they have a dispute in USA and USA court is dealing with the matter. That is the foreign element involved. Why? Because the parties to the dispute were not the nationals or citizens of USA, but they were the national or citizen of any other country. So for USA, that is a foreign element. Public international law regulates relation between states. Public international law is different from other types of laws because it is concerned with interstate regulation, that is deals with regulating the conduct of one state with another and not with relations between private entities and domestic laws of any country. So we are not concerned with what are the domestic or local laws of that country. We are not concerned with the law of the land of a particular country. What we are concerned in public international law is the relation between various states, that is the interstate regulations, and also how they have to relations की अगर हम बात करें तो उनके कंडक्ट तो उसमें implicit है ना कि what is the conduct of one state with another and what kind of good or bad relation it is sharing, and not regarding the citizens. Citizens से भी मतलब नहीं है. Okay, now if you see this table, peace, security, trade, weapons, human rights, intellectual property, since a particular website, suppose there is a website with a very informative article printed on a particular subject, say international law का कोई बहुत अच्छी जनरल है या एक आर्टिकल है किसी वेबसाइट में किसी ऑनलाइन जनरल में पब्लिश हुआ, and you can access it in India, right? In any state or city of India, but that article is written by someone who is a foreign national, who is not of India, and it is his original work. So that is copyright. I hope I had given you some example one time or the other, like कभी ना कभी तो copyright और इन सब चीज़ के example मैंने maybe in class 11 series or in class 12 only, I hope I have given you before also. So that is copyright, that is intellectual property, something which is his own creation of mind, labor, skill and effort. ओके तो उसने खुद लिखकर उसको अपलोड किया है, बट यू कैन एक्सेस इज वर्ल्ड वाइड. अगर आपको वो अगर इंडियंस को दिख रहा है तो और कंट्री वालों को भी दिख रहा होगा, राइट. सो उसका डोमेन भी एक्सपैंड हो गया है ना. तो अब हम कैसे उससे रेगुलेट करेंगे, क्योंकि इंडिया का जो इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी लॉ है दैट विल नॉट अप्लाई ऑन इट, राइट. सो इसलिए द इंटरनेशनल पब्लिक इंटरनेशनल लॉ के ये सारे फील्ड्स हैं. सो आप कह सकते हो कि ये इसका स्कोप है. ठीक. ओके. सो पीस एंड सिक्योरिटी मीन्स टू एंश्योर दैट the citizens the states are maintaining peaceful relations with each other and not attack. जैसे आज बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहा है currently. Israel, Iran, now it is in news. Earlier it was Israel, Gaza Strip, Ukraine, Russia, right. बहुत ज़्यादा जो भी हो रहा है, that is not peace. Security, when one nation is not attacking on the other nation, security of that nation is automatically maintained. So to maintain the peaceful relations amongst each other and in the world, and to secure or to protect the citizens of own country. Trade, you know, weapons, you know. International crime means again crime which is committed on an international level. Suppose if somebody has done an online fraud. Online fraud सबको पता है. OTP आपसे मांगा, आपके बैंक का पैसा निकाल लिया, अपने अकाउंट में ट्रांसफ़र कर लिया फ्रॉड से, जो कि आज बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहा है. एंड इट इज़ ऑल्सो समथिंग विच कैन बी कमिटेड फ्रॉम एनी वेयर, नॉट नेसेसरी दैट अ पर्टिकुलर पर्सन इज़ एन इंडियन ओनली. वो किसी और नेशन का भी हो सकता है जो ऑनलाइन आपके साथ फ्रॉड कर रहा हो, राइट. सो दैट इज़ वन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ इंटरनेशनल क्राइम. दैट मीन्स द क्राइम विच इज़ डन क्रॉस बॉर्डर्स. Human rights means some basic rights which are provided to every human by the virtue of them being a human. I think we had a whole chapter of this, human rights, right? Intellectual property, I have told you. Biodiversity means the diversity of biological or living beings. Climate change, as we know, global warming, greenhouse effect and all such things which are happening at a greater extent now because of the pollution levels which are only on increase. That's why there is a concern or urgency for protection and conservation of environment and its resources. Finance, development, science and security, extradition. Now extradition means, suppose like you may have heard the names of Nirav Modi, Mehul Choksi, right? What they have done? Fraud with the banks. They took huge crores amount of money loan from the bank and they ran away to other nation. Now he is a person who has committed a crime in India, but we cannot arrest him. The Indian police or the authorities cannot get hold of him because he has fled to another nation, right. So that is, अगर हम उस nation के साथ contract करें या request करें, क्योंकि that person has not committed any crime in suppose USA, तो US पुलिस उसे अरेस्ट करेगी नहीं, राइट. लेकिन वो हमारा तो क्रिमिनल है ना, यहाँ से तो वो क्राइम करके भागा. तो अगर हम उनसे रिक्वेस्ट करें एंड द पर्सन ऑल्सो, द कंट्री ऑल्सो सेंड्स बैक दैट क्रिमिनल पर्सन टू द लॉ ऑफ द लैंड जहाँ पे वो पनिश होगा, राइट. सो दैट इज़ नोन एज एक्स्ट्राडिशन. एयर स्पेस मीन्स I don't know how many of you know this, but if I own a particular piece of land, then suppose this is the piece of land that I own. The air above that piece of land, this much air, and the soil below that land is all mine, right. You may have heard that a particular country has closed down its airspace or something like that. So if suppose this land is the territory of a nation, तो इसके ऊपर का जो एयर, जितने भी एयर है वो भी तो उस कंट्री की ओनरशिप में होगी. So closing airspace means I am not allowing any flight to cross above me. Me means nation. Okay, that is airspace. C, fisheries, natural resources, Fine. The objective of PIL is to provide a framework of rules and regulations that help in fostering means to further or to grow the stable and organized international relations. Since it regulates the conduct or relation between the countries, so it is to make a framework of rules and regulations that can help to foster the एक stability रहे, also to further peace and security and organized relations. Organized harmony में होगा तभी तो ज़्यादा life होगी ना उसकी. The range of subjects have been widened. That means if the question comes, is the scope of PIL limited? So you will say no. It is ever evolving. It has widened with time. One of the global international organizations that deals with trade between nations is WTO. So that is an example of an international organization which is also a part of PIL. Why? Because it regulates the relation between states. And what aspect of relation? Trade. ठीक है? From the early days of Silk Road, now a homework. Silk Road, what is it? You have to find out. Read books or read any article on Google or whatever, but you have to find out about it and make a short note of it, around 50 to 100 words maybe. Okay, and write down in your notebooks, or if you have really searched about it, then comment down and let me know that you have done it. Okay, fine. To the creation of GATT and birth of WTO, इसके बाद WTO आया था. Trade has played an important role in supporting economic development and promoting peaceful relations among nations. So, trade is what? The economical aspect, right? Import, export से financial benefits होते हैं. So, the economic development can be supported because क्या होगा कि अगर हमारा फाइनेंशियल बेनिफिट होगा ना, सो इकोनॉमी तो बढ़ेगी ना. इफ़ यू आर ट्रेडिंग विद अदर नेशंस, हमारा सामान ना सिर्फ हमारे देश के लोग यूज़ कर रहे हैं बल्कि बाकी देशों के भी यूज़ कर रहे हैं. सो इकोनॉमिक बूस्ट होता है. एंड ऑल्सो इफ़ आई एम नॉट सेल्फ सफिशिएंट, आई नीड समथिंग फ्रॉम द अदर नेशन, सो आई वुड मेंटेन अ पीसफुल रिलेशन विद दैट कंट्री, क्योंकि फिर मुझे पता है अगर मैंने इससे लड़ाई करी तो वो सामान जो मेरे लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है वो मुझे नहीं मिल पाएगा. राइट, इफ़ आई एम वॉर विद अनदर नेशन, क्या वो नेशन हमें कुछ सप्लाई करेगा? अपनी चीज़ नहीं करेगा, सप्लाई रुक जाती है. राइट, सो दैट्स वाई द पीसफुल रिलेशंस आर ऑल्सो मेंटेन्ड देयर बाय. समझ में आ गया ये दोनों कैसे कंट्रास्ट में है? आई होप इट इज़ understood. Then WTO was established. Now this is very important detail and not only for your class 12th exams, but it is public international law is a different stream altogether when you take up law in future. So in that case ये सारी जो details है वो 1 markers या in competitive examinations these are asked. These are very basic. Okay, headquarter कहाँ है, कब establish हुआ, कितने members हैं, बहुत basic but बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस बनते हैं ये. WTO 1995 जेनेवा स्विट्ज़रलैंड, 164 मेंबर्स, आउट ऑफ विच 98% इज़ वर्ल्ड ट्रेड. ठीक है, 98% ऑफ वर्ल्ड ट्रेड इज़ डन बाय दीज 164 नेशंस हु आर द मेंबर्स ऑफ WTO. दैट इज़ द मीनिंग ऑफ दिस लाइन. WTO is only global international organization that deals with rules of trade. Intergovernmental organization, that means it has the scope or jurisdiction of government between various nations. Intergovernmental regulates and facilitates international trade. So regulate means rules and regulations के साथ control भी करता है और allow भी करता है. Facilitate is to allow. At its heart are the WTO agreements negotiated and signed by bulk of world's trading nations and ratified. Now why bulk? Because 90% of world trade तो ये 164 members ही कर रहे हैं, right? सो देर आर वेरियस WTO में भी उसके कुछ अग्रीमेंट्स हैं जो कि वेरियस नेशंस ऑफ द वर्ल्ड ने एंटर किए हैं फॉर रेगुलेटिंग द रिलेशंस विद अमंगस्ट देमसेल्व्स. The goal is to help producers of goods and services, exporters, importers to conduct their business. ट्रेड को फैसिलिटेट करने का मतलब ही तो यही हुआ ना कि जो भी बिजनेस एक्सपोर्ट इम्पोर्ट होना है बिटवीन वेरियस नेशंस वो स्मूथली हो सके, उनका इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट, इकोनॉमिक बूस्ट हम इंश्योर कर सकें, राइट. There are a number of ways of looking at WTO. It is an organization for trade opening, forum for governments to negotiate trade agreements, right? If both the nations cannot do it themselves, they can take the help of WTO, or WTO can help to have the conduct and smooth running of trade. Place for them to settle their disputes. ट्रेड डिस्प्यूट्स बेसिकली हो सकते हैं कि इतना सामान प्रॉमिस था एज पर दिस ट्रीटी डेटेड दिस, बट उतना सामान इन्होंने एक्सपोर्ट नहीं किया, पैसे हमसे ज़्यादा ले लिए, ऐसे ही सब हो सकता है ट्रेड डिस्प्यूट, राइट. ऑपरेट्स अ सिस्टम ऑफ ट्रेड रूल्स. सो दीज आर ऑल द फंक्शंस ऑफ WTO. WTO is a place where member governments try to sort out the trade problems they face with each other. That is again the way of resolving their disputes. Private international law is referred to conflict of laws. Why conflict of laws? Because as I had given you that example of foreign element, so if they are Indian citizens, Indian law should apply on them, isn't it? Indian citizen पे automatically Indian law का jurisdiction आ जाएगा, basic सी बात है. लेकिन since they were living in USA and dispute also arose in USA, you remember that word cause of action? We have come across it, cause of action. So cause of action जहाँ arise हो वहाँ पर jurisdiction बन जाती है. cause of action USA में arise हुआ तो USA की jurisdiction बन गई, उन्होंने केस भी उधर फाइल कर दिया, यहाँ के कोर्ट ने जजमेंट भी दे दिया, ठीक है. अब so that is the conflict. Since they are not US the citizens of USA, तो हम USA law as it is उन पर कैसे अप्लाई करें? Will it be fair and just to apply USA law on them? Because as such they are not bound by it, right? Even for India, किसी भी और नेशन का लॉ जो है वो बाइंडिंग नहीं है. It is only a suggestion which it is free to ignore. We are not bound by it. We don't need to follow the rules of other nations. We are only and only concerned with following the rules of our own nation, which the government of India has passed in due course of independence, right? So that is the conflict. इसी बात का conflict आता है कि हम कौन सा law apply करें. Parties तो किसी और country की हैं, jurisdiction किसी और country की है क्योंकि वहाँ पर cause of action हुआ, वहाँ पर dispute हुआ, ठीक है. So अब हम क्या करें? suppose दो parties है, husband and wife. हस्बैंड की जॉब अमेरिका में थी, वाइफ उसके साथ अमेरिका चली गई हस्बैंड के साथ रहने, बट वहाँ पे एंड दे हैव मैरिड अकॉर्डिंग टू इंडियन, सपोज हिंदू रिलीजन के हिसाब से इनकी शादी हुई, दैट इज़ अगेन इंडियन लॉ, राइट. दे आर इंडियन पार्टीज. मैरिज इज़ ऑल्सो मैरिज टुक प्लेस अकॉर्डिंग टू इंडियन लॉज ऑल्सो, बट दे आर रिसाइडिंग इन USA. वहाँ पर वाइफ ने डाइवोर्स के लिए फाइल कर दिया क्योंकि जब अकेले रहते थे तो हस्बैंड उसको डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस करता था उस पर, ठीक है. सो अब यहाँ पर दैट इंडियन वुमेन कैन नॉट अप्लाई एनी ऑफ द इंडियन लॉ, डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट, IPC, BNS, वॉटेवर, कुछ भी अप्लाई नहीं कर सकती वो USA में, वहाँ पर उनके लॉज चलेंगे. बट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट वही आता है कि हम तो अपने लॉ से गवर्न होना चाहेंगे ना. वाई वुड बी गवर्न विद द USA लॉ? सपोज वहाँ पे ऐसा कुछ लॉ ही नहीं है डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस से रिलेटेड, सपोज, तो फिर गई वो तो, हस्बैंड इज सेट फ्री, ठीक है. सो ऐसे होते हैं कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स. दैट इज़ द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. कॉज ऑफ एक्शन कहीं और अरोज हुआ बाय द नेचर ऑफ पीपल बीइंग बिलोंगिंग टू अनदर नेशन, उन पे कोई लॉ, कोई और नेशन का लॉ अप्लाई होना चाहिए, इसी बात का कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होता है. Set of rules and principles governing interstate interactions and transactions of private parties. Now here in public international law, we were concerned not with the private parties or entities, but with the intergovernmental relations, right? Here we are concerned with the transactions of private parties. It is a body constituted of conventions, model laws, domestic laws of states, secondary legal resources. See, domestic law of states, इसीलिए, as I have told you that example just now, क्योंकि in that example we are concerned with what are the marriage or divorce related laws of India, because the parties were Indians, right? So that is the domestic law of India. Model law means what should be the, you may have come across the word model answers to these questions, right? So what should be the ideal law, क्या अप्लाई होना चाहिए? कन्वेंशन, दैट इफ सच प्रॉब्लम अरोज तो आप ये वाला लॉ, आप इस कंट्री का लॉ अप्लाई कर दो, अगर पार्टीज़ वहाँ की है तो आप उसी पार्टी जिस कंट्री की है वो लॉ अप्लाई कर दो, ठीक है? इफ़ द मैटर इज़ अबाउट ट्रेड एंड पार्टीज आर ऑफ अ पर्टिकुलर नेशन, उन्होंने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किसी और नेशन में किया तो आप वो लॉ अप्लाई करो जहाँ का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ है, ये सब अग्रीमेंट करना, ठीक है? दैट इज़ कन्वेंशंस और अग्रीमेंट्स. समझ में आ रहा है? फॉर मी private international law is more confusing than public international law. So that is my opinion. Suppose convention, as in there is a contract. I am giving you two examples. First one is that the parties have married in USA, the parties have married in India, okay, according to Indian laws. They are legally, it is a legally wedded couple as per Indian law. They went to USA, domestic violence हुआ वाइफ के साथ, यूएसए कोर्ट में क्योंकि कॉज ऑफ एक्शन अरोज हुआ वो वहाँ पे केस फाइल करने गई. बट यूएसए कोर्ट के पास अब कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इस बात का होगा क्योंकि दीस आर नॉट इंडियंस, इनकी मैरिज के कॉन्सिक्वेंस में डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस हुआ और उसके कॉन्सिक्वेंस में शी इज़ सीकिंग डाइवोर्स, राइट? जिस लॉ से जैसे हमने किया था क्लास 11th में मैरिज एंड डाइवोर्सेस, राइट? सो जिस लॉ से आप गवर्न होकर शादी करिए उसी लॉ में डाइवोर्स हो सकता है आपका, राइट? तो अगर हिंदू लॉ या इंडियन लॉ फॉर दैट मैटर इज़ नॉट एप्लीकेबल इन यूएसए, इवन द judges, they may not be well versed with the laws of India. They are well versed and experienced in the laws of their own nation, right? And this is applicable for any other nation of the world. For Indians also, Indian judges also, the law of any other country, they are not well versed with it, right? So how they will be able to make it applicable to the best way possible, in the most efficient manner, to give the justice to the parties concerned, right? That is one problem. Why they cannot abruptly and overrightly apply the US law on Indian parties, because it will not serve the justice as it should have been. That's why the conflict and problem arises, that the parties are Indians, their marriage was as per an Indian law, so how can I apply outright pure English law or USA law on them? ठीक है? So we are concerned with the private parties. Now suppose there is an agreement between the nations, or it is the model law for that matter. Suppose that अगर ऐसा कुछ मैरिज रिलेटेड डिस्प्यूट है जहाँ पे डाइवोर्स सीक किया जा रहा है बाय द फॉरेन नेशनल्स, तो जिस लॉ के हिसाब से, जिस कंट्री के लॉ के हिसाब से शादी हुई थी उसी लॉ के हिसाब से आप डाइवोर्स करोगे. सो नाउ इफ़ द मैटर इज़ पेंडिंग इन यूएसए कोर्ट and they have to give the decision, they will give the decision applying Indian law on these parties. They may hire an expert, they may read books to understand that particular Indian law, or whatever they do, however they undertake this approach, but they have to give justice applying Indian law only. They are not used to apply the American law. They can't apply it. If they apply, it will be a bad judgment. Okay? Suppose there is another example. There is a convention that wherever the contract is entered into, or suppose wherever the contract is breached, that nation's law will apply. ठीक है? Now, when a contract is breached, there are certain remedies as per the Indian law. Either you can compel or force the other party who has breached the contract to perform it by the judgment of court. If the court has ordered that other party should perform his part of contract, तो you are executing that judgment. आप उसको बोलो कि मैंने तुमको पैसे दे दिए तो मुझे सामान डिलीवर करो. कोर्ट ने भी इस बात का ऑर्डर दे दिया कि सामान डिलीवर हो जाना चाहिए. ठीक है. या फिर डैमेजेस या कॉम्पनसेशन दिए जाते हैं. These are the two basic remedies: specific performance and compensation. Right? Suppose एक ब्रीच हुआ, एक सपोज अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वॉज एंटर्ड इनटू बिटवीन ए एंड बी इन इंडिया. ठीक है. कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एंटर्ड इनटू इन इंडिया बिटवीन ए एंड बी. दीज आर द सिटीजन्स ऑफ इंडिया. फाइन. दे वेंट टू USA, resided for a certain period of time. They had to buy some article, B has to buy some articles from here. तो B यहाँ पर गया. उसके बाद A and B again went to UK. Fine. Okay, so two people, Indian citizens, entered into a contract in India and they went to UK after some time. There, the breach of contract took place. B refused to deliver the promised goods to A, but A has paid the price in advance. ठीक है. So now what will happen? Breach has taken place in another country. Parties are of a different country. The contract was entered into in a different country according to the laws of a different country. The contract was not entered into in accordance with the laws of UK, right, but of a different country. So now again there is a conflict. अगर मैटर UK के किसी कोर्ट में गया है, फिर से कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है कि हम इंडियन लॉ अप्लाई करें कि UK का लॉ अप्लाई करें. राइट. और सपोज ऐसे कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल मैटर्स पे एक कन्वेंशन है कि जहाँ पर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ब्रीच हुआ उस कंट्री का लॉ अप्लाई होना चाहिए. ठीक है. तो अब कहाँ पर ब्रीच हुआ है? यूके में. तो यूके का लॉ अप्लाई हो जाएगा और यूके की कोर्ट जजमेंट दे देगी, थिंकिंग एज इफ, और वैसा ही जजमेंट अपनी प्रूडेंस और रैशनल के हिसाब से देना है, एज इफ एन इंडियन कोर्ट इज गिविंग दैट जजमेंट. ठीक है. दूसरी चीज़, फॉरेन एलिमेंट की बात करी थी हमने. तो फॉरेन एलिमेंट क्या होगा यूके कोर्ट के लिए? The parties belonging to different nations, the contract entered into in a different nation. That is the foreign element. Now suppose I do another twist in this example. I am changing the color. Okay. Suppose these are not Indian citizens. These are American citizens. Fine. Two American citizens, they came on a trip to India, okay, where they entered into a contract in accordance with the Indian laws. But then again they went for another trip to UK where the contract was breached by one of them. The matter went to a court in UK. Now there are the laws of three nations which are focusing here. Citizens belonging to one nation entered into another nation, breached into another nation. तो अब कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इंक्रीज हो गया. राइट. अब हम किस नेशन का अप्लाई करें? ऐसे चीज़ों पर कुछ मॉडल रूल्स सेट किए जाते हैं कि अगर ऐसी ऐसी सिचुएशन है तो कहाँ का लॉ अप्लाई होना चाहिए, बिकॉज ऑफ द फॉरेन एलिमेंट्स कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इज अराइजिंग. और किस लॉ का कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हो रहा है? अबाउट द डोमेस्टिक लॉ ऑफ द स्टेट्स. ठीक है. डोमेस्टिक लॉ ऑफ स्टेट से हम इसीलिए कंसर्न है बिकॉज इसी का तो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है कि हम इस नेशन का डोमेस्टिक लॉ अप्लाई करें कि दूसरे नेशन का. ठीक है. और उसी को रिजॉल्व करने के लिए कुछ कन्वेंशंस बनाए गए हैं विच द पार्टीज हैव अग्रीड टू. फॉर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स द कन्वेंशंस और द मॉडल लॉज आर डिफरेंट फॉर वेरियस ग्रुप्स ऑफ नेशंस. And if I talk about marriage, marriage is one thing which is widely recognized across all the nations of the world. Right. एक ऐसा रिलेशन है जिसको सारे नेशंस ने रिकग्नाइज़ किया है, तो उसका लॉ वही है दैट आई हैव टोल्ड यू, जिस नेशन के लॉ के हिसाब से उन्होंने शादी करी है या जहाँ पर शादी हुई है, द प्लेस ऑफ मैरिज, द प्लेस वेयर मैरिज टुक प्लेस, वहाँ का ही लॉ मैरिज रिलेटेड डिस्प्यूट्स के लिए अप्लाई होगा। ठीक है, सो मैरिज का बहुत बेसिक एग्जाम्पल था। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वाला अगर आपको नहीं समझ में आया है, इग्नोर इट, अदरवाइज यू कैन वॉच द वीडियो बाय प्लेइंग इट बैक as many times as you want. If you have not understood, please forget about it. You don't need to delve much into it. If you take law in future, you will be anyways dealing with this whole subject as a whole, as a different stream. Otherwise conflict, I hope I was able to explain conflict किस बात का arise होता है, क्यों arise होता है, उसको resolve कैसे करते हैं, and what is the example of it. marriage का आप याद रख सकते हैं. I think it's not much difficult, only to remember that the place where marriage took place, वहाँ का लॉ, उस कंट्री का लॉ ही अप्लाई किया जाता है फॉर द डिस्प्यूट्स विच आर रिलेटेड टू द मैरिड पार्टीज. द इशूज आर विच जुरिस्डिक्शन शुड बी परमिटेड टू हियर द केस. जुरिस्डिक्शन मीन्स कौन से एरिया का लॉ अप्लाई करना चाहिए. द लॉ कंसर्निंग विच जुरिस्डिक्शन शुड बी अप्लाइड. ठीक है, हम माने कि इंडिया का जुरिस्डिक्शन होगा, अगर इंडिया का जुरिस्डिक्शन होगा तब इंडिया के लॉ लग जाएंगे. ठीक, सो दैट इज़ द वे दीज टू थिंग्स आर related, jurisdiction and law. Marriage का example is also given over here. There is conflict of law with respect to marriage related issues between couple belonging to different jurisdiction. Question about which legal system and norms should apply forms part of PIL. Now over here, if I talk about that couple belong to different jurisdiction, that can also be the case where husband is of a country A and wife is of another country B. ये भी तो हो सकता है, राइट. सो अब यहाँ पर अगर ये दोनों डाइवोर्स सीख कर रहे हैं और किसी और थर्ड नेशन में सीख कर रहे हैं, तब आप सोचो, एक हस्बैंड है जो ए कंट्री का है, वाइफ बी कंट्री का है, उनके कस्टम्स और मैरिज जिन कस्टमरी राइट्स के हिसाब से हुई है वो भी डिफरेंट होगा, राइट. तो अब आप कौन सा अप्लाई करोगे लॉ. अगेन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. जितना ज़्यादा फॉरेन एलिमेंट इंक्लूड करोगे उतने ज़्यादा नेशंस के लॉ एप्लीकेबल हो सकते हैं और उतना ज़्यादा ही कॉन्फ्लिक्ट आएगा. अगर दोनों इंडियन सिटीजन्स हैं लेकिन बस कहीं और जाके रिसाइड कर रहे हैं तो दो नेशंस के लॉज में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है. अगर दोनों अलग अलग नेशन के सिटीजन्स हैं और कहीं और रिसाइड कर रहे हैं तो 3 फॉरेन एलिमेंट्स आ गए, राइट. सो ऐसे ऐसे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट बढ़ता जाता है. फॉरेन एलिमेंट इसलिए बोलते हैं बिकॉज ऑफ कोर्स यूएसए अगर है, कोई और कंट्री है, यूके या इंडिया फॉर दैट मैटर, यूएसए के लिए तो ये कंट्रीज़ और इनके लॉज फॉरेन ही होंगे ना. दिस इज़ द कंपैरिजन बिटवीन द टू PILs. Now international bodies we will be taking up in the next video. Thank you so much.